I recently went with my boyfriend's family to go and see Sleep Token at the O2 in London, and it was an amazing show. We even got to go to the pop up store for the exclusive merch. They bought some t shirts and loved so many of the designs. I was kind of too busy wondering what they were going to do with the decor in the shop after it closed to actually buy any of the merch. There was a particular skeleton lamp I was rather obsessed with. While we were in line waiting to get into the merch store, we were kind of joking around and started talking about bleach t shirts. Now, this was November time and Christmas was coming up, and it gave me an idea. I originally had no idea what to get these guys for Christmas, and once we got back from the show, my boyfriend wanted to play around with some bleach on the t shirts and started to have a go on one of the back of one of his own. He did a smiley face and wrote the words "Hello Sleep Token" just as like a silly test, but then he asked me to fix it. So I freehanded a skeleton and had just finished watching Arcane and decided to do sort of a hex core sun motif on the back as well. We washed the t shirt and he absolutely loved it. As a first go at bleach art, I was fairly pleased, and even though I did accidentally drip some bleach onto the shirt in some random places, it kind of went with the design it added to the effect. Happy accidents, you know? I showed the guys in the group chat and they were totally obsessed with it and decided that they wanted one. So I thought they would make the perfect gift. Now, one of them also has a small child, and I thought it would be incredibly adorable for them all to have matching t shirts, but to do the children's design in a bit more of a girly, less emo design. And also, it would give me a second attempt and some time to actually research what I was doing with the bleach to make the design actually work, and would be quite cheap to replace if I completely ruined it. And the idea of them all opening their gifts on Christmas and having matching photo in all of their t-shirts was just so cute. I used my iPad to design each one, tracing over the elements for certain parts of each design or adding in elements I wanted, such as the butterflies. Now, in my research on how to put the designs on the t-shirts and to get it ready for bleaching, I saw that you needed to have 100% cotton shirts, so I bought a few of those off of Amazon. And I saw that you were supposed to actually wash and iron the t-shirts before you bleach them. Now, I didn't do this with the child shirt, and I kind of regret not doing that. Now, there's a few different ways to put a bleach design onto a t-shirt. From my research, I found that you could use baking paper, greaseproof paper. Some people use a cardboard stencil, but since I had a light box, I decided that I would buy a fabric chalk pencil. Now, this had a very, very soft lead and it kept on breaking. I might even have to put a counter in the corner to show you just how many times the lead broke while I was transferring each of these t-shirt designs. But I think it was actually the best option since it meant I could just draw straight onto the t-shirt and not have to worry about any stencils moving or shifting when I was trying to put the bleach on. And I prefer to work with the paintbrush anyway. Later on, you will see that I did try the spray method with like an atomizer or a spray bottle, and you just fill it with bleach and spray around. And I think if you have a better spray bottle than the one I had, you could get a better effect. Once the designs were put on this t-shirt, it was ready to go and I could start painting. I didn't water any of the bleach down, although you can do this and apparently you can get some quite nice shading effects. Now, you are supposed to use 100% cotton t-shirts, which I did get, and before actually putting the design on and adding the bleach, you should wash and iron the t-shirts, and I regret not doing this with the child t-shirt since I found it to be quite patchy when putting the bleach on. So I washed all of the others. Now, once the design was transferred, I decided to work on one shirt at a time for this, as the chemical reaction of the bleach doesn't actually stop until you soak the t-shirt in cold water for at least 20 minutes. So doing it one shirt at a time and putting each design on one at a time, I think worked the best. Originally, I started trying to use one of those refillable paint pens where you can put water inside it
I think it's designed for watercolor painting, and it kind of worked, but I tried to fill the tube itself with bleach instead of water, and I don't think this was a great idea. You should definitely use gloves for this, which I found out very, very quickly. Fun fact, or not so fun fact, if you get bleach on your skin and leave it for a few minutes without washing it off, you kind of start turning into soap. And it's really gross and slippery. So definitely, definitely wash your hands and wear gloves. To try and avoid ensoapening myself, I switched to a small container of bleach, a very, very cheap paintbrush. I didn't want to destroy any of my actual paintbrushes since bleach is obviously toxic. I would also recommend doing this in a well ventilated area or wearing a mask. Originally, I started doing this in my dining room with a window open, but you will see that I moved to the conservatory so I could open the door. And with it being winter in the UK right now, this was really, really cold. But the things we do for safety. Painting over my lines to make this design was fairly easy actually. It does take about 10 seconds for the bleach to start to appear, so I think you can see more in my other designs later. We'll swap around on what bit I'm working on so that I can wait and see where my line is before I try and connect it to another one. But this process was actually really fun. The longer you leave the bleach on the t-shirt, it will burn in more and get lighter and lighter. So it was really cool to see that effect happen. And in my time lapses, you can see this happen quite quickly actually. Now I had about 4 different designs I wanted to do, and I will show each of them. So we have the current one that I'm working on at the moment, which this time lapse is of, where it is the Sleep Token logo and some butterflies on a child's t-shirt. And I found it was best to put cardboard behind the t-shirt and sort of peg the t-shirt into place so it wouldn't slip around. It gave a good background for it to go onto and made sure that the bleach wouldn't soak through all the way to the other side. And you can see, I think I do put some photos in later where you can see like the bleach on the cardboard and you can see where it's stained. So I'm glad that we decided to do that to make sure that it wouldn't end up on the other side reversed on the back. Now, I realize I've spent all this time yapping about the shirts and bleaching. I didn't even mention the concert itself. I have been to many, many gigs in my life. Admittedly, not as many as some people, but a fair few. And this one at the O2 was kind of wild. I have been to this venue before, but not for so many years, and definitely not as high up. We got seats that were directly opposite the stage, but nearly 2 rows away from the top of the building. It was incredibly high up, and I wouldn't recommend it at all if you're afraid of heights. We got to our seats and sat down and kind of felt like we couldn't move for fear of falling down. The space for your feet was super, super tiny, and the next row below you was kind of mid shin height, so it felt like a vertical drop. It was really scary, and a lot of people, I think, also felt the same. We overheard some people saying that they weren't going to dance or anything, which was kind of a bit weird. A lot of people in many other gigs would be like, moving around and standing up, but at most people would bob their heads. And to be honest, whenever someone held up their phone, I was kind of terrified they were going to drop it. Now, Sleep Token the band was really cool to see live. Kind of more of an ethereal experience than a lot of other bands. People are usually like screaming and singing along during the show, but for many parts of this, especially the parts where they would play piano between songs, it would go completely silent. I'd seen videos and TikToks of this happening, but it was kind of wild to be there yourself and experience a building full of thousands of people go completely silent for one band. It was really cool, but kind of felt a little disconnected. I don't know if it's because the band themselves don't really speak, and because we were so far away, we didn't get to see a lot of their little skits that they do to interact with the crowd instead of speaking. And we were all joking afterwards that for quite a while, because of the amount of smoke from the smoke machines, we thought the microphone stand was the lead singer for quite a while. And we were all thinking, wow, he's standing really, really still. until we realized when the lights went on that it was a microphone stand and he was actually on the other side of the stage. And obviously, there were a lot of phones and people recording, myself included. I did get quite a few clips. And a lot of people held up their phone torches during a couple of the songs, which was quite magical. And we could also see a couple of mosh pits happening in front of the stage, which looked absolutely crazy. I've never been in a mosh pit, and I don't think I would do too well, but it was cool to see. We stayed seated and tried to kind of bob our heads with the rest of the people near us, but I don't think I would want to sit that high up again for a concert. Back to the t shirts for a second, because now we're on to the second design, and this one was more half Bring Me the Horizon Sempiternal album and half Take Me Back to the Eden album cover artwork. And doing a half and half design for this was really fun, if a little complicated to try and draw quite that many circles. I did have to kind of make up the moon a little bit, and I didn't video all of the sleep token side because I spent a lot of time looking at my reference photo to try and make sure that I got it as close as I could to the actual artwork. Since the design was full of so many thin lines and quite dark, it was a little hard to trace with the chalk pen, whereas the sempiternal Bring Me the Horizon side was quite clear and quite easy to do. And I did manage to get some cool shots of this one of real time bleach processing, just so you could see how quickly the bleach appears with the lines. And you can see where I'm going backwards and forwards with my lines to wait for it to develop enough for me to see and then connect it to the next circle. And from a distance, it looks quite good, but close up, you can see some of my circles aren't the greatest. But it's handmade, so I think it adds to the charm of it. Once the design was on the t-shirt, it was then submerged into cold water and left to sit for 20 minutes. This was the process that we did with each of the t-shirts before it got washed with just a normal laundry tab. I think we used just Ariel, just the normal laundry tablet, whatever you have would work, because the chemical reaction's already been stopped by the cold water. It's just to make sure that there's no residue of anything left on there. And then it's left to dry, and that's it. Second t shirt down. For the third t shirt, we decided we wanted to try out a different design idea. Now, my boyfriend was helping me with a lot of the ideas for these designs, because trying to come up with four separate designs right before Christmas for gifts and really hoping that they would like them was a little bit daunting. But he came up with the idea of us taping a border with duct tape and spraying with the atomizer and spray bottle around to create a clean border. Now, the spray itself wasn't like the cleanest misting, but the border with the duct tape worked really well. And then I freehanded cherry blossom design on top of this, which is this time lapse. I do have another story from the gig experience that I do want to share with you. The experience was mostly pretty cool, but there was one thing that also sticks out. There was an older guy in front of us who kept on heckling really loudly, yelling and everything, especially when people went silent. And for some of the really magical parts, he was being really rude. I kind of don't understand why people do that kind of thing, because tickets for these gigs aren't cheap. I think we paid around £70 for our seats. Why would you spend that much money to go and see something that you don't like? He was with someone, and I kind of feel bad for his friend, because the other guy was trying to film and enjoy himself. And then when the gig ended, he shouted, "Play Robbie Williams." And guess what the first song to come over the speakers was? It was Robbie Williams. We were all looking at each other like, oh my God, did he just like manifest that? But it's always good to see a gig, and I haven't been to one since I went to Download earlier this year. So it was good to experience it again, and I always enjoy going to see bands live. So we're about halfway through this third t shirt now, and this one was for my boyfriend's mum, and she saw, like the others, that she also saw the t-shirt in the group chat, and she was like, I really want one. And I'd already made her a painted plant pot for Christmas, and she's obsessed with border collies. She absolutely loves the dogs. So it was painted with that, but I thought I didn't really want to paint her a t-shirt with border collies on because it just felt kind of too obvious, and she's got so much border collie stuff. And I wanted to paint something that was cool and still suited like the distressed look that I was getting from a lot of the bleach effect, but also something that she might actually wear. So this is where the cherry blossoms came in. And I did originally have a photo reference, but the reference was quite detailed. And I'm sure there is a way to get detail with bleach on t-shirts, but I decided to go for more of like an illustration look. They're almost kind of cartoon cherry blossoms. And I think it came out quite well. I did have to go backwards and forwards a lot with this one because I just had a rough sketch, whereas the other designs I had the stencil in the light box. This was just a sketch straight onto the t-shirt. So it wasn't quite as clear and obvious what line was there because I simply hadn't drawn it yet. But it still came out quite well, I think, and she absolutely loved it. And the fourth and final design was half Sleep Token and the lead singer Vessel, and half Bring Me the Horizon. And I can't remember the album name off the top of my head. I believe it is There Is a Hell Believe Me, I've seen it. You might have to correct me in the comments. And this one was the most detailed and complicated, so I left it till last so I'd have time to practice. But they all came out incredibly well. This time lapse is slightly shorter than the other ones because honestly, I had been painting with bleach on t-shirts for like a good few weeks at this point. It might have taken me 3 weeks to do all of these. Um, but everybody opened their t-shirts on Christmas and absolutely loved it. And then I recently met up with all of them a couple of days ago and they all modeled their t-shirts for me, which was very, very sweet. And I've put those photos in at the end for you as well. And I just want to say thank you for watching this video. And I would say Merry Christmas because this was supposed to be before Christmas. Um, but I got completely tied up with the holidays and family events. So I will say Happy New Year instead. And please like and subscribe to this video, and any interaction is greatly appreciated. And I will see you in the new year.